불멸의 전사 2.
Welcome back to more SPL, the next in Arena. I am Valdez, with me is GTR. We're about to jump into match number 2 of the night. It's going to be the 2 undefeated teams, SK Telecom T1 versus the Jin Air Green Wings.
Yep, a rematch of last season's playoff final. And it's actually this season, Jin Air looking the stronger team so far with that +9 point ranking compared to the +5 of SK Telecom T1. And all these matches in this game are so good. We're starting off here though with Dark versus Maru, and honestly this was a toss-up for me.
It really, I mean, it's so close, it's so hard to call. Maru is undefeated in Pro League, he's 9-0. But as Dark said in his interview, you know, Maru hasn't faced the hardest opponents, whereas Dark just won an SSL, and he is looking so strong against every race. He's looking like one of those top 3 guys in Korea right now, where it's like Dark, TY, and Zest. You know, TY and Zest in the finals of GSL, right? Dark just winning the SSL. Those guys, I feel like, are on a bit of a different level compared to some of the other players we got, including Maru. You know, Maru's maybe at like 4 or 5, but I don't think he's on the level of Dark in terms of where I feel like those 3 have kind of just figured out Legacy of the Void so far.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there that TY, Zest, and Dark are the top 3 players in Legacy of the Void so far. And I'd actually like to see a power ranking maybe by Team Liquid or the guys over at ESPN, because with the new region changes, we can actually separate between the foreigners and the Koreans. So would love to see some sort of power ranking come out for the Korean scene at least to figure out who's the top 10.
What do you think is top 5 quickly? We have our top 3, right? But put them in order and then give me 4 and 5 quickly.
All right, 1 Zest, 2 Dark, 3 TY. And 4 and 5, maybe 4 would be Maru and 5 Innovation. Only just because of their Pro League performances.
You know, that's pretty much what my top 5 is, right? And I feel like it kind of makes sense, you know? Zest is just, it's so...
He makes everything look so
one-sided.
Easy.
Yeah, it looks one-sided in every game he plays, regardless of who he plays against. Whereas Dark, he wins all of his games, and most of them are one-sided, but not all of them. So I put him like slightly below Zest. And then you got TY in there, who's having some trouble in some games, but is very, very powerful. And then Maru, of course, undefeated, and Innovation slipping in there. I would have to, you know, maybe there's someone else for number 5, but I can't really do it off the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
It's interesting to do that exercise with you, GTR.
Good to work out brains. But we'll see here the matches for today. Dark versus Maru will be our starting game, followed by Classic versus SOS, Sue versus Rogue, and Dream versus Trap. Good games that we have today.
Every single one could go either way. You know, even though we say Dark is favored over Maru, some people think Maru is favored over Dark at this point. And even regardless of who is favored, both of these guys are so good that it really depends on who's going to show up today to play. And that's when you get the best games, right? These best of ones between the best players in the world and these Korean players. And it's going to be a slugfest between these 2 specifically.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are bringing out their strong guns for this match. And no surprises, because as I mentioned before, at the start of the broadcast, whoever wins this match is mostly likely to get that seed to the grand finals of round 2 in the playoffs. So they're doing the same pose.
Dark matched him. Dark was not doing that pose before, I don't think. Or maybe Dark was doing that Maru match with him, because Maru, you know, used to make fun.
Wasn't Maru doing the tie thing or something like that?
No, Maru had his arm through the logo. You always used to make fun of them for that. So these guys kind of matching each other here. Not sure who did it first, which came first, the Dark or the Maru, but you can see here about these guys at the top of the winners rankings, 9-0 and 9-3.
Largest pentagons of like the players we've seen so far here in Pro League. Yeah, you know how I like my pentagons. So.
Yeah, I know you love them, man. It looks like Maru's got a 10 in strategy, where Dark's at a 9, but Dark's got 10 in spirit, and somehow Maru is at a 10 in star quality. I mean, I don't know. I'd give him an 8 at best. Either way, 10 and 6, Dark is the favorite. Maru has said at certain points in his career that he was scared to face against Dark, specifically. And Dark has proven, I think, in the last two times these guys have faced each other, that he is the better player in terms of this matchup.
Dark being a player on Slayers, and look at that, 4-3. So very even so far. But Dark being on Slayers, joining SKT. He's found his stride with SKT, with the amazing coaching staff that they have, and we're seeing the potential that he showed us on Slayers.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. This guy is finally reaching his potential. One of the best players in the world. We put him at number 2, just behind Zest. But can Maru overcome this guy? The predictions are close, 4-3 in favor of Dark. We're about to jump into our first map of the night, Dusk Towers for Dark versus Maru. An epic matchup to be sure. Get your friends in the stream. Let's go into game number 1 right now. Down here, up here in the top right, in the orange, from SK Telecom T1, it is Dark.
Fly high T1. As we see here spawning as the green turn from Jin Air Green Wings, it is Maru.
Looking calm as ever. Not my life for champion. Jin Air fighting.
Good old Konglish there.
Yeah, my life for champion, man. Not for ire. I mean, none of these players are Protoss, so I guess it kind of makes sense. Gonna be a big map here, Dusk Towers. And I hope we do get to have that very long macro game between these guys.
Yeah, I think all of us watching at home here in the studio want that really long macro map. Dusk Towers is a pretty big map compared to the lower like crests, the overgrowths that we have in the Pro League map pool. As go some in. Okay, I couldn't read that on
like since he was a junior in high school, he fell in love with Starcraft, and since then something else, and then he finally came down to the studio to cheer. So happy to have him. Hopefully some of you guys out there who are listening to this broadcast will find the time, the money to come down to Korea, fly over,
we
join
have
us.
esports every week, so you're not going to miss out.
Yeah.
As we see here, Dark actually going for that front expansion. Generally, you want to take the one at the back, but looks like by taking his front expansion, he wants to start spreading that creep out. I think this person was from Busan. I can't read this writing; it's so messy.
Yeah, I think it said that. And
I just
said
read
SKT1
Busan.
fighting.
Yeah, maybe it's a fan from Busan. Not too sure though. And we see here, getting that gas, getting that speed. It's not actually taking any gas off that geyser, so probably wants to build upon the extra gas that he's getting.
These guys are like, they're using the word Jin Air and taking apart the syllables and making a joke off of each one. That's a very Korean thing to do. They like to make puns off of the names, the words of stuff.
As we see here, the first Reaper coming up from Murray. He's going to scout that expansion at the front base of Dark, and it actually sneaks in, so he's going to go to the back and see that nothing is actually going on.
Yeah.
He was positioning his Zerglings for the inevitable jump up from the Reaper, but alas, the Reaper did not go up onto that area.
Yeah, like the angle there that he took for sure. Dark now going to take us third base, whereas Maru is going for the second racks and the factory. Seeing this a little bit more often in TVZ. Just going to keep that Reaper out there to scout the fronts and begin to tech up.
Yep, so it looks like here, getting that reactor on the barracks, he wants to get those Hellions out as soon as possible. Question is, what is he going to build behind this? He is getting that tech lab there, so maybe Banshees. Not too sure yet. And it's actually his second barracks, so he's getting the stim up really quickly as the Marine here patrolling. As we all know, Dark does love those quick speed overlords to scout, but Maru with that Marine there gonna sniff that overlord out if he decides to go into the base.
Reaper gets in again. Let's see what kind of scouting information he can get. Nice little surround there from Dark. That one grenade will interrupt some mining, but that's about it.
Yeah, you notice the AI of the Reaper there screwed up quite a bit. It actually did like a little zigzag dance. If it worked out perfectly for Maru, he could have kept that Reaper alive, but as such, the Reaper does die, but he does scout that there isn't any second gas there at the main base, but looks like Dark is taking that gas at the expansion. And I haven't seen the... could he just pop up the... Okay, he's getting Banelings, so...
Yeah.
Looks like he wants to get some aggression done. Generally, when we've seen Dark play ZVT, he wants to get that safety Roach Warren and that one Ravager, and then work from that. But it looks like he's just rushing the Baneling nest deal.
This is really interesting. I'm listening to everything you're saying. You're right on the money, and looks like he wants to mix it up because Maru definitely must have studied this matchup and the recent ZVTs that Dark has been playing, and he's been playing a lot of them, right? So he's been showing his style in this matchup, likes to get that 3-base, quick ultra, get that safety Roach Ravager composition with +1, but he's not doing any of that for now. He's getting that safety Baneling nest, at least. Look at this double drop coming out, and it's going to be totally missed by Dark.
Yeah, if you remember the Maru game that he played against Solar on this map, he decided to go for Sky Terran and he completely wrecked Solar because Solar had no answer for it. But looks like Maru's just mixing it up a bit and is going to get these early medivacs with these Marines and try and stop the spread of creep.
Yeah, not even going to go for a drop, just stopping the spread here. This is something that you would do if you respect your opponent, right? You're like, he's probably going to have his defenses ready. I should stop the creep, get a small advantage here instead of you know, going for a risky drop play. Kill an Overlord here or there, stop the creep from spreading, and all the while back at home you're macroing up. Sees these links, comes out, and just picks up and flies away.
Love the positioning there of the Queens from Dark after he placed those creep tumors. Knew that Maru was going to go back for round 2 of those creep tumor killing days, so with those Queens there, he flexed those medivacs off, but it looks like it's going to go, Queens do go back, and another chance here for Maru to stop the creep.
Yep, that he will do. Kills 3 of those tumors, and the Queens have to come out once again. Little dance we got here between 2 of our top performers in Korea. Another drop going to come down in the main. And it is, of course, scouted here. Dark getting ready. A second drop is being prepared by Maru. It looks like maybe wants to hit the 3rd base while he commits. Tries to snipe some Banelings here.
Yeah, nice snipes there. And what I love from Maru is that instead of going for the tanks here, he's actually going for the Widow Mines. Recognizes the way that the map works. Siege tanks aren't really the best option here, so he's going to get those Widow Mines for the Zerglings, for the Banelings. And it looks like he might be going for a Doom drop. No, he's going to just keep Dark at his feet, make Dark respect his army.
Yeah, now the Widow Mines are getting burrowed in the main. Dark trying to come from 2 angles here. Big pickup there from Maru. Drops into the main. The Widow Mine hits the medevac.
That's unfortunate there. That Widow Mine actually working. Oh, he loses that medivac there with all the Marines, and that is huge. Dark looking very well with that medivac with all those Marines dying. That is a crazy series of events there.
That is unbelievable, right? I would have to think that he was doing that on purpose. You know, get a Ling underneath that medevac and just try to angle it. This Widow Mine could do some damage. No, just
gets away.
Barely misses. But
I mean, if he had that Overseer, he could have killed that Widow Mine a lot earlier. But now he's only morphing that Overseer. But it looks like Maru is still relentless with this medevac harass. He's got those 2 medivacs flying across the map, one with Marines, one with Widow Mines. But the Spy is around halfway done for Dark. So once those Mules come out, these drops will pretty much be negated.
Oh, that Widow Mine could have done so much damage, but instead it targets the Overseer. These Widow Mines are actually doing not so good for Maru in this game, and now he's going to try to drop in here, immediately getting this around on all the Widow Mines, and only the Liberators do a bit of damage, but immediately one goes down and the other gets pushed away. Dark is holding this off with flying colors, man.
Yeah, that Spore there at the mineral line was a hero for Dark. That Spore doing so much damage to those Liberators, and Maru committed so much to that attack, and we see here at the bottom right, there's a hidden base from Dark, and Maru has no idea it's happening.
Yeah, I love the idea too, because generally Terrans always try to hit a timing at the 4th on this map to try to deny it for as long as possible against the Zergs, but keeping it hidden is just so nice, because maybe Maru's saying, okay, you're teching up, you're going to take a later 4th, but in fact he's got it hidden all the while. Look at this, the Baneling drops coming in at the same time, and he misses it here. The Banelings are going to do so much damage. 10 SCVs go down.
Oh, that was a really nice move there from Dark, getting those Banelings out, even with that turret there at the main base of Maru, and you would see a counter drop here from Maru coming into the expansion, but there's a Spore Crawler here, can't drop.
The defense so far from Dark has just been on point, more so than any other game. I mean, even Corruptor's now coming out here. Gonna try to drop these Widow Mines. Looks like they will be cleaned up eventually.
Yeah.
Not getting some decent damage done. Look at that, the scan. He sees the drones transferring, and he's like, oh, you must have a base over here.
Yep. And now he knows with that scan, he confirms that there is a base there at the bottom right. And I'm curious what Maru's going to do with these medivacs there, sitting at the 6 o'clock position. Is he going to save them to do a counter drop at the expansion, or is he going to reunite them with his main force? He picks up, and looks like Dark was trying to intercept this army, but looks like he wants to go for a huge attack at the main base of Dark.
Oh, and a lot of Dark's units are out of position. It looks like he's just going to go for a counterattack with a lot of his lings. One small drop over here with 3 Marines is going to bring back those units, but there's nothing to answer this main drop for Maru.
Oh, these Banelings need to get the perfect hits on this army if he wants to defend this, but Maru here with some nice positioning behind the extractor.
Look at the splits on creep. Unbelievable. Keeps almost everything alive. More and more units, though, coming back here and should eventually clean this up.
But these Corruptors, they're chasing away these Medivacs, and okay, those Medivacs do get away, but if those Corruptors got there a bit earlier, he could have done a lot more damage to those Medivacs, as Maru's actually forced to drop there at that 12 o'clock gold base because he didn't want to get those Medivacs sniped by those Corruptors. Yeah,
and now this is an interesting point in this game where we don't see this kind of unit composition from the Zerg anymore. It's very hard to transition and get into that hive, whereas generally the money for the Zerg in this matchup nowadays in Legacy of the Void, you want to get those altars out, but this is going to be very delayed with the build that Maru has gone for. He hasn't committed to too many mutas, which is definitely going to help him, just relying on those Corruptors for now, but only now is he getting that infestation pit fixed up.
Oh, that was a juicy hit with the Banelings on those Marines. Gets a nice chunk of army from Dark, but he is morphing some Banelings in to help try to defend from this attack, and these Widowmites are going to do so much damage to the Banelings.
Oh man, that is a gigantic hit, and Maru could try to put some pressure on the back of this. Looks like he's going to try to drop towards that south base, the bottom right, and at the same time perhaps drop into the main.
Yeah, it's imperative that Dark tries to connect that creep highway to that bottom right base, because he's going to be relying on these Zerglings and Banelings to defend from this, and
that's a dead base, man. There's just nothing here. You could easily focus that down with 2-2 bio, just 2 medivacs, and there it goes.
That being said, though, the Corruptors are chasing these medivacs away, and there's going to be a counter. Oh no, looks like Dark is got his army there at the main base, so.
Yeah, and this will be eventually cleaned up. All the while, Dark does have another base finished up at the regular 4th base position, and he is going to start remaking that 5th base there in the south. So kind of gonna even out here, and all the while this is happening, Dark is transitioning into a hive.
But we see here, Maru's +3 weapons is nearly done. It's actually more than halfway through. So, and as you said, Dark hasn't got his hive tech up, and once Maru gets that +3, it's going to be really hard for Dark to penetrate and kill off the army of Maru.
Yeah, it really is going to be. Is Maru going to try to attack here onto the creep? You can see he's free-splitting here. The Banelings rolling through, trying to get those hits. Not the best hits I've ever seen. Look at that split from Maru. We're getting that wide-angle shot here as Dark attempts to make more and more Banelings, more and more Lings here.
I think Maru's playing this quite well. He's being very patient with those Widowmites, but it looks like Dark is going for an attack here.
Here he goes, the huge splits off the creep as the Banelings roll forward and do not get the hits. There are more and more Banelings that have been morphed over here, but it looks like he's just going to group up and take his losses.
Yeah, he decided to attack there off the creep, and Maru, already pre-splitting, wasn't really effective attack there from Dark, as Maru's just slowly leapfrogging across to that 4th base of Dark, and the hive tech is nearly there, but I don't think he has enough time to get these ultras out. That's why he's trying to get these Banelings.
He's desperately trying to survive, and that's the problem with this kind of composition nowadays. +3 is done, and the Banelings get some hits, but there's so much more fire where that's from. Looks like Dark's going to commit to a big counterattack to try to take some pressure off of him right now.
Oh, the Banelings don't get the hits that Dark wanted, but if there's anything to keep Dark into this game, it's this counterattack here at the expansion of Maru, but it looks like Maru doesn't even care about it. He's just marching through, kills that 4th base.
He's taking a lot of damage, though. That 3rd base is going to be denied a lot of mining. He does have that 4th base up and mining with the planetary here. Looks like he's going to try to shut down these other bases of Dark and cut him down to only 3.
Oh, it looks like this counterattack is being cleaned up here from Maru. And even though he did stop the mining there at the 3rd base, I feel like he should have just went for the infrastructure of Maru so he couldn't remax, but Oh, I think this is looking good for Maru.
Yeah, it's gigantic. He's cut him down to only 3 bases now. Looks like only about 1.5 mining here. And look at this ragtag group of units. He's got a lot of beans, not that many lings. He doesn't have much production right now.
Yeah, it's looking really hard for Dusk here. I mean, he does have all these banelings, but with the way that Maru's played this game so far, pre-splitting quite prematurely, he's doing a very good job of mitigating the potential damage that banelings could have done. And as we see here, these banelings coming into base, they are on creep though, but look at these splits from Maru, crazy splits.
You're never going to hit anything with the banelings. CG, there you go. Maru takes his 10th win and continues his undefeated streak in Pro League.
Oh, I love the Widowmine play there from Maru, mixing it up compared to the previous games he's played where he's used Tankovax, he's used Sky Terran, going back to the bread and butter of Harder Swarm, using those Medevacs, using those Marines, using those Widowmines, and just playing it quite patiently, and he was rewarded for his patience.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. Just going back to what works for Maru, and he took out one of the best players in the world right now, and that is a gigantic win for both Maru and the Jin Air Green Wings here in this matchup.
Yeah, and Jin Air Green Wings do take that 1-0 lead, and it's still a toss-up when we talk about the next 3 games between Jin Air and SKT. Anyone could win, but it's good to be on the to have the lead rather, coming into that second game.
Yeah, it definitely is. Our second game is going to be Classic versus SOS, a PvP. Dark was a bit cocky in his interview, and he did take the loss here on that map. I have to say, Maru played it very nicely. You know, the amount of pressure he was putting on from the get-go. Dark needed that creep spread out on the map to try to secure a 4th base somehow, but it's generally pretty hard on the map. But Maru knew from the beginning, even though he was losing some units here and there, his Widowmines were working against him. It was just non-stop pressure that kept Dark continuously defending and not allowing him to transition into any higher tech.
Yep, so Maru remains undefeated, I believe, in the regular season,
yep,
which is
10-0.
10-0, which is like crazy.
It's godlike.
Yeah.
I mean, TY got 7-0 in 2014 in round number 1. But then he did fall off quickly after that. Maru just is not stopping at all. He dropped out of his individual leagues very early on, but that allowed him more time to prepare for his Pro League games, and it's paying off. I feel like Dark has been his hardest opponent yet, but he prepared so well for this matchup, and he played it pretty flawlessly.
Yeah, like that play from Maru was some of the best play I've seen so far in Legacy of Void, better than TY. And without those individual league commitments that he previously had, Maru is just wrecking Pro League, and I'm actually curious to see how well he'll do once the summer season of individual leagues do start up. So
I think he's going to be on a roll, man. Like, he's just been allowed so much time, as we keep saying, to just, you know, take a bit of a break from season number 1, which obviously, you know, hurts his results, his rewards, right, all of this, but he's going to come back a stronger player, and I think we've all been kind of underrating him out here in Korea. I mean,
I love Hero's signature, by the way. That is a sick signature.
That is awesome.
Because he uses that the Kim line, I guess, to do the rest of the signature. But yeah, congratulations to that fan.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I like come back on camera. I'm like with my mouth wide open.
The Artosis face.
Yeah.